Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Visit squarespace.com/BrendanVanson for more details. What's going on, guys? I am in my office and I've just finished editing my photos from Namibia. And that's incredible. Not because I finished editing photos from a trip, I always do that. It's because the Namibia trip was only a month ago. So usually I'm like 6 months behind, but I'm slowly catching up and that's fun. I'm having a lot of fun again with photography and travel and vlogging, and I'm having a lot of fun creating videos again. It's something that I struggled with this year, and it feels like I'm coming back, and it feels exciting, and it feels fun. And thank you for joining me on this process, because it has been a process. I've been trying to figure out how I want to do things, the way I want to vlog, the way I want to lead photo tours, and just the way I want to live my life. And part of this journey has been testing out different methods of vlogging and different methods of doing YouTube. And what I'm doing on today's video is not something I'm going to be doing much of in the future. This was just something I tested. So I was in Namibia and I was leading a photo tour. And I should mention that this photo tour went really well. We had just an awesome time, lots of incredible photos, lots of incredible moments. We just had a really, really good time. And on this trip, I decided to do something a little bit different. I decided to not film. Basically, I thought that maybe my filming was getting in the way of two things. One, making good photos, and two, leading good photo tours. So I decided, hey, let's just focus on making photos and let's focus on the other participants and just have a fun trip. And it definitely worked. But I also wanted to take it a step further. I only photographed with one single lens, a 500mm f4 version 2 that I borrowed from Lens for Hire in South Africa. The lens is awesome, but it's not exactly right for Namibia, and it was a journey making it happen. The entire trip in Namibia, 14 days, one lens, one body. I did film a little bit here and there, so I will jump you into the clips from my camera that I took talking to the camera in the past as we go. But this is the story about the time really recently that I used a 500mm lens to photograph an entire country. So the journey starts in Windhoek and we headed straight to a place called Quivertree. Quivertree is awesome. It's one of my favorite places in Namibia, but it's also a place that I've really struggled with for photography over the years. I haven't found it an easy place to photograph. I feel like it's busy, it's hard to find compositions. You really have to work to make a good photo there. The funniest thing happened with this 500mm mammoth lens is that I think photography actually got easier for me there, or at least a little bit more fun. I started out kind of playing with some details. I was playing with the bark on the Quivertrees, for example, is really, really beautiful. It's got this texture that's almost like gold leaf. It's really, really beautiful. So I started playing around with that. That's kind of an obvious thing to do there. And then I remember I'm photographing shallow depth of field through these like branches at the trees, and through the camera it actually looked really beautiful. I don't know if these photos actually came out kind of cool, but I remember saying to Neil, who was assisting me on the trip, that look at me, I'm making art. And just like, I was having so much fun with this lens. It was just great. As the sun kind of came down, I started doing some more traditional things with the lens. And I actually think that the long lens helped me simplify even some of these more classic compositions in Quivertree. I was, for example, using the long lens to find one single tree catching light within the landscape, but that tree was like a mile away. It was ridiculous. The other thing that happened with this lens is that it changed my perspective on what I should be photographing, and I caught myself on this trip photographing the other participants on the trip quite a bit more. So Marcos and Courtney, two of the participants on the trip, they were standing up near some trees, and there was just the sun was setting behind them, and I pulled a couple images on them, and I think they came out really, really cool as well. From Quivertree, we headed down south to Luderitz. right along the coast. Yeah, just kind of an underrated place in my opinion. The one place that people go there, as I need coffee, the main reason photographers go there is because just outside of town is Kolmanskop, which is this ghost town that's kind of been overtaken by the dunes. This is the worst place in the whole world for a telephoto lens. In fact, let's go to the phone footage. I'm at Kolmanskop guest house. Not guest house. This would be a terrible guest house. Kolmanskop ghost town. And I'm trying this challenge with the 500 millimeter. This is a terrible decision. I love photographing here, but yeah, 500 is probably not the lens for it. That being said, I've photographed pretty much every single room here, and the whole point of this is to try to come up with stuff that's new and different and, you know, find different style images. So I don't know, maybe this isn't a terrible idea, but it just feels so wrong being somewhere like this and using a 500 millimeter lens. So obviously in a space like Kolmanskop, you're in these just tight quarters, and there's really actually nothing you can do with a 500 millimeter lens. The minimum focusing distance of the lens is too far away. You can't even focus on anything. So I actually found myself exploring a lot outside of the rooms and outside of the buildings. I found myself photographing these beautiful flowers. One of the cool things about using this 500 millimeter lens was that I was seeing things that I'd never seen before because I was looking more. I'd never noticed these flowers in Kolmanskop before. I've been there 20 times. I don't remember these flowers. And I found myself photographing 2, 3, 4 images of the flowers, and some of them being kind of cool. I did also find myself again playing a lot, which is a really good thing. If you're into photography, never stop playing. I feel like whenever I lose my love for photography, it's because I've stopped playing. Always play. So I found myself inside the buildings photographing out of focus images of broken glass and window panes and the sun coming through dirty windows, things like this. And again, I'm not sure if they're good images, but at the time I was taking them, 1, I was happy, and 2, it felt like I was creating something. It felt like I was making art, and that's really fun. Okay, so then after that, we headed north to Sossusvlei. Sossusvlei is probably the most famous place in all of Namibia. This is where everybody goes to photograph the big red sand dunes. They're incredible. And we got very, very lucky in Sossusvlei. And the 500 millimeter lens was a bit of a challenge to use there. It's just a little bit too much lens. We're in Sossusvlei, and my whole group is way up there, photographing normal photos, 70 to 200, and I'm with the 500, so I've basically had to walk 500 meters back just to try to fill this into the frame. Yeah, I don't know why Neil's running at me, but he's not going to like the audio on this phone video. What are you doing?
I'm just running at you.
Well, why?
Just to bomb your video.
You did it. So all that being said, yes, I had to move around a little bit more with the 500 millimeter. But I do think it led to some really cool images. I got some really beautiful images of the dunes. I got some really beautiful images of people walking up the dunes. And then actually we got really, really lucky, and there was this crazy wind and sandstorm that blasted through. And in the sandstorm at 500, you could make this, like these ethereal? I don't know words. Ethereal looking images of this like white sand blasting through these dunes and the trees, and it just looks like a hellscape. It's kind of awesome. And as we went a little bit farther up, I think I got my favorite photos I've ever taken at Sossusvlei. And I think the 500 millimeter lens actually works. The famous dune there is called Dune 45. Everybody climbs this dune because it's the most accessible one to the road. And in front of it, there's this tree, or actually these 2 trees. One tree's dead, one's alive. They're kind of famous for being in dune photos there. And behind this tree, or these trees, The wind was just whipping up the sand in the coolest way, creating the most incredible texture. And looking at my screen on Lightroom, I have 5 images that I kept of this tree. And they're all similar, but they're all different enough for me to keep. But at least, 1, 2, maybe these 3 are like, I just love them. I love them. Like, I'm definitely going to print these images. That's how much I love them. Courtney, who was in one of the photos earlier, she liked to pose in her own photos quite a bit. So she actually went climbing up part of Dune 45 in this wind and was quite brave about it because this wind was whipping. And I also got a cool photo of her on the dune with this kind of like crazy wind. When you go back to a place so often, I've been there 10 times, 12 times, you do start to get a little bit, not bored, but a little bit lazy with your photos. And having the conditions change on you like that really brings out the best in your images. Near Sossusvlei, we also went on a little bit of an evening hike to Hidden Vlei. I struggled with the fact that I had too much lens. And the whole time I was out taking pictures, I was just constantly moving and walking and trying to get the exact right angle and composition. And again, this is one of the really nice byproducts of using a lens that's wrong, is it forces you to wander around a bit more. So I was wandering around a bit more, trying to get everything perfect. It forced me to be a perfectionist, which I'm definitely not. And actually the photos from Hidden Vlei, again, I really, really am happy with them. Of course, we went to Deadvlei, which is, again, one of the most famous photography spots on the planet. And I kind of walked the opposite direction. My goal in putting on the 500mm lens for this Namibia trip was to challenge myself. And it was also to limit myself and hopefully come up with images that are different. And what's interesting is, I don't know if my images are very good, but it's definitely changed my personal experience with the place. I'm finding myself more willing to go off the usual trek and the usual trails and taking the usual photo spots, looking for things that will work with the 500mm. So Deadvlei is over that direction, opposite of me. But this morning I've walked completely opposite direction of Deadvlei into this beautiful, absolutely incredible set of dunes. There's no words to describe how beautiful it is here. But like I said, it's changing my travel perspective and my exploration perspective, and it's allowing me to find new things so that when I do come back to Namibia, and I will be back here in 2025 for a trip if you want to join me, when I do come back, I can come into these places and try photos in here without the 500mm. So this has been a very, very positive experience with the 500mm on this trip. The opposite direction was fun. There's some beautiful, beautiful dunes that way, and nobody goes that way. It's very rare. So I went with a couple of my participants off that direction, and I mostly used them as models because these dunes are so big that you need scale. So they're in the frame, they look like they're fairly close, but at 500mm, they were actually a long ways away from me. And again, some of these images came out really cool. I'm very happy with them, especially these ones of Alex. I really love this image of him just almost hiding amongst the dunes. Of course, I did go to Deadvlei as well, but it was a challenge. Okay, I'm in Deadvlei now, and this 500mm kind of works here, but it's almost ridiculous, and you constantly have to worry about other people getting in your way. For example, I'm photographing this tree way over there, and my photo is perfect. But then not one, but 2 photographers have just stood directly in my photo because it's so ridiculous that I'm taking a photo of something so far away. I'm not blaming them at all. They're so far away that they couldn't possibly think that I'm taking a photo of the thing that they're standing in front of. But that's the struggle here, not the lens. It is still a bit of a struggle with the lens. You get kind of flat images here. Of the actual images from Deadvlei, I kept 5. But They're not great. I think with the long lens, it's just too flat. Everything looks too flat. I tried to get lower to the ground to create some depth, but it's just not the right lens for there. I was hoping that there'd be like a bird on a branch or an oryx through there or something like that to help me, but that didn't happen. From there, we headed north and things started to get a whole lot easier for me because we headed into wildlife land. We headed to Cape Cross Seal Colony. I don't think there's anything spectacular I took at Cape Cross Seal Colony this year. We cruised through Damaraland, and actually in Damaraland there was a couple times that the lens hurt me. In that the coolest thing about Damaraland is it's this beautiful red rock and green patches of vegetation, and they're mountainous. And you get these beautiful orange giraffe or elephants in there contrasting this scene, and you almost want a wider angle lens to create that environmental portrait. So I couldn't really do that this time. But we had a whole lot of fun. We stayed at a place called Palmweg Resort, which is right in this valley, and it's like a dried riverbed where elephants kind of walk up and down. And you really have to be careful. For example, Neil and I were walking from the restaurant to the hotel rooms, and this happened.
Oh, what's going on? It sounds like there's an elephant around that corner as well. Oh, shit.
There was one point that I would say I was less than 5 meters away from a full-grown elephant, and I nearly pooped. I've nearly pooped, and then I ran away like a baby and went and hid. After Damaraland, by the way, never run away from elephants. That's not what you do. Anyway, after Damaraland, we headed to Etosha, and I'm not going to share too many of the images from Etosha, or maybe I'll just flicker through them as I talk, because the challenge is over. 500 millimeters is the correct lens for Etosha. If you can bring only one lens to Etosha or only one focal length to Etosha, 500 is the one you should bring. Maybe even 600. Everything's so far away and open that you can get away with a lens like this. Ideally, a 100 to 500 is probably better, but 500 is ideal. So we just had a marvelous time in Etosha. There was jackals, there was some really cool images of ostriches in kind of harsh light and then in beautiful sunset light. We had a bunch of rhino sightings as usual there, some beautiful elephants. We saw one hyena only, which was kind of odd, but it was a hyena in beautiful light. We saw, I'd say, 20 lions. We saw male and female mating. We saw cubs. I believe there was probably 4 to 6 cubs. We in total saw about, I think, 4 or 5 maned lions when we were there. We had a really cool experience on the last day with these female lions thinking about hunting. They didn't end up hunting, but they got very close to us, and it was really impressive. We even got some cool images of wildebeest, and that's really hard to do. We had an awesome experience on the way out of the park. The last day we were heading out the west side of the park, Namutomi area, and as we were cruising, I took a little bit of a detour and spotted a male lion in the grass. Got one photo of him before he decided to sleep and go out of our frame. And off in front of us, I saw a bunch of zebra starting to run. And my first thought was, why are the zebra running in the middle of the day? That doesn't make any sense. So drove ahead, and basically out of nowhere, these 4 cheetahs come up and they just walk alongside the vehicle. And I don't have any photos myself of this happening because I was in the lead vehicle, but the vehicle behind me, Neil, I think they might have gotten some photos of this, but there was these 4 beautiful cheetahs just walking with us down the road. It was just super special. The cheetahs eventually walked off into the grass and away from us, and I really wasn't focusing on photographing them because I'm leading a photo tour, so my goal is to make sure everybody else gets good photos. So I'm driving into positions, I'm setting up, and I'm moving around so that everybody gets a good view. And of course, when you do this, you do have some moments to get a good photo. So I think I got 2 images of the cheetahs farther off in the distance that I really, really like. So Namibia was incredible. Awesome trip. If you want to join me, I still have spots left on my Namibia trip this coming year. So October 2025. Namibia for me is it's hard to pick. It's one of my top 3 favorite trips to run because it's just got so much variety and so much adventure and so much beauty. You've got dunes, you've got Quivertree forests, you've got ghost towns, wildlife. It's just got a little bit of everything and it's so awesome. So if you want to join me in Namibia in 2025, please do. And please bring more than one lens. You can probably get away with just a wide angle and a 500mm though, to be honest. So if you join me in Namibia, I'll see you there. And if not, I'll see you on the next video, which is going to be the new style coming from Botswana. I'll see you there. Peace. And now, from the sponsor. Squarespace is a great place to build your photography, website, and business. It gives you all the tools you need to get rolling, including the new Design Intelligence, which combines 2 decades of design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology that'll help empower you to build the perfect site for you. Through your website on the Squarespace platform, you can also invoice clients, accept payments, and build an online store. There's even a scheduling platform which will save you time when booking and organizing client jobs. To get started, visit squarespace.com/BrendanVanson for more details and a 10% discount off your first purchase.